Hey everyone, welcome back to Yusuf Reacts. Today we're diving into the world of espionage, gadgets, and iconic one-liners. With Die Another Day, the 20th installment in the James Bond franchise. Released in 2002, it stars Pierce Brosnan in what would be his final outing as 007. So let's take a closer look at this polarizing Bond film. What worked, what didn't, and what makes it stand out in the Bond legacy. Spoilers ahead, so let's get into it. Die Another Day begins with a bang literally. We open with Bond, our favorite British super spy, on a mission in North Korea, tracking a weapons dealer. But things go south pretty quickly. Bond is captured, tortured, and eventually released in a prisoner exchange after 14 months in a Korean prison. But is he really free? Cue the intrigue quickly learn that Bond's enemies have gotten personal, and the mission is far from over. But before we go deeper, let's talk about what made this film so unique. First off, we have to mention the gadgets. If you've ever wanted to see James Bond drive an invisible car, Die Another Day delivers just that. The Aston Martin V12 Vanquish, essentially a Bond dream car, becomes a literal game changer. Invisible to radar, the car also features machine guns, oil slicks, and even a rear-mounted rocket launcher. And let's not forget about the gadget-fueled action sequences, which are as over-the-top as you can get. Now, what would a Bond film be without memorable villains? This time, we get Gustav Graves, played by Toby Stephens, a billionaire tycoon, who's secretly planning to use a satellite weapon to start a global conflict. Oh, and don't forget Zhao Ryun, the icy assassin with diamond-encrusted skin. Together, they're a formidable pair, but Graves' obsession with Bond, especially after Bond disrupts his plans, is a bit on the goofy side. It feels like the film's trying to outdo itself in villainous grandeur. And we can't forget Jinx, played by the stunning Halle Berry. Jinx is Bond's equal in many ways. She's tough, skilled, and just as fearless. In fact, her entrance is an obvious nod to Ursula Andress' iconic scene in Doctor. No, Halle Berry was cast to bring a fresh, modern Bond girl to the screen, and she certainly holds her own next to Brosnan. However, some felt that Jinx's character could have had more depth than just being a seductive sidekick. What do you think? Was she the perfect Bond girl, or did she fall short? Let's talk about some of the moments that raised eyebrows. There's no denying that Die Another Day is a Bond movie full of outlandish action. Some of it works, and some of it doesn't. The Ice Palace in Iceland, for instance, feels more like a set from a Bond-themed theme park than an actual location, and the surfing scene, a little hard to take seriously. But I have to admit, Die Another Day is never boring. It's a thrill ride from start to finish. Die Another Day was, in many ways, the culmination of the 90s Bond-eratic, flashy, and bombastic. But it also marked the end of Pierce Brosnan's tenure as 007. After this, the Bond franchise would take a different direction, with Daniel Craig moving toward a darker, more grounded approach. So, looking back on Die Another Day, how does it hold up? Some love it for its wild action and iconic moments, while others feel it's a little too far-fetched for the Bond franchise's classic espionage roots. Personally, I think it's a fun ride, even if it leans a little too hard into the CGI and campiness. James Bond is sent to investigate the connection between a North Korean terrorist and a diamond mogul, who is funding the development of an international space weapon. Pierce Brosnan gives one last mission as James Bond 007. Starting off in North Korea, Bond is betrayed and captured. 14 months later, Bond is set free, but traded for Zhao Ryun, who was captured by MI6. When back in his world, Bond sets off to track down Zhao. Bond gets caught up in yet another scheme, which sends him to millionaire Gustav Graves' Toby Stephens. Another MI6 agent known as Miranda Frost Rosamund Pike is also posing as a friend of Graves. Bond is invited to a presentation held by Graves about a satellite found in space which can project a huge laser beam. Bond must off this madman with a fellow American agent, known as Jinx Halle Berry. While Bond tries to stop Graves and Zhao, will he finally reveal who betrayed him. MI6 agent James Bond Pierce Brosnan infiltrates a North Korean military base. He hijacks a helicopter that was supposed to be delivering diamonds to the base in exchange for weaponry. Bond had put explosives inside the diamond case before the helicopter landed. Where Colonel Tansen Moon Yunli is illegally trading weapons for African conflict diamonds the UN has banned trade in these diamonds as they are being used to end wars. After Moon's right-hand man Ulrich Yoon sends Bond's photo to an unknown source who reveals Bond's true identity. Moon attempts to kill Bond. He blows up Bond's helicopter, but Bond escapes by triggering the diamond case explosive at the right moment, and a hovercraft chase ensues, ending with Moon's apparent death. The hovercraft goes over a waterfall with Moon on it. Bond survives, but is captured by North Korean soldiers and imprisoned by the colonel's father, General Moon Kenneth Sang. After 14 months of captivity and torture at the hands of the Korean People's Army, Bond is traded for Zhao in a prisoner exchange. Even at the last moment, General Moon asks Bond about Call Moon's ally in the West, but Bond says it was the same person who betrayed him. Bond is sedated and taken to meet Judi Dench, who informs him that his status as a low agent has been suspended under suspicion of having leaked information under duress to the North Koreans atop US. Agent in the North Korean High Command had turned up dead during Bond's captivity, and a prison communication named Bond as the source. Since MI6 suspected he had cracked, Bond is convinced that he has been set up by a double agent in the British government. After escaping MI6 custody, he lowers his pulse and simulates a heart attack. He discovers that Zhao is in Hong Kong, where he learns from Chong Ho-yi, a Chinese agent. Chong wants revenge the death of his agents at the hands of Zhao, an old colleague, that Zhao is in Cuba. Q. John Cleese, MI6's quartermaster and armorer. Miss Moneypenny Samantha Bond, M. Secretary. In Havana, Bond meets Raul Emilio Echevarria, the manager of a Havana cigar factory and a British sleeper. Raul traces Zhao to a clinic of Dr. Alvarez, who specializes in gene therapy on a small island next to the Cuban mainland. Bond also finds NSA agent Joachim Jinx Johnson Halle Berry, and they have sex after some casual flirting. Bond follows her to a gene therapy clinic where patients can have their appearances altered through DNA restructuring. Bond locates Zhao inside the clinic and attempts to kill him, but Zhao escapes. Actually, Jinx kills Dr. Alvarez and sets up a time bomb inside the clinic, which throws Bond off and allows Zhao to escape. Bond also learns that Jinx was CIA, leaving behind a pendant which leads Bond to a cache of diamonds identified as conflict diamonds, but bearing the crest of the company owned by British billionaire businessman Gustav Graves Toby Stevens. Bond learns that Graves only appeared a year prior, apparently discovering a vein of diamonds in Iceland, leading to his current wealth, celebrity, and philanthropy from its assets. At Blades Club in London, Bond meets Graves along with his assistant Miranda Frost Rosamund Pike, who is also an undercover MI6 agent who won a gold medal at the Sydney Olympics for fencing. After a fencing battle, Verity Madonna, a fencing instructor for Graves, introduced them, and Bond made a wager for a conflict diamond. Bond is invited by Graves to Iceland for a scientific demonstration. Shortly afterwards, M tells Bond of MI6's doubts about Graves, restores Bond's 000 status when Bond tells her that Graves' Iceland operations are a front for laundering African conflict diamonds and offers assistance in the investigation. M calls Frost and tells her that she is sending in Bond despite Frost's objections, as in 3 months Frost has come up with nothing on Graves. At his ice palace adjacent to the diamond mine site in Iceland, Jinx also turns up for the demonstration. Graves unveils a new orbital mirror satellite, Icarus, which is able to focus solar energy on a small area and provide year-round sunshine for crop development. Zola arrives in secret, and Graves is revealed to be Call Moon, post-gene replacement therapy. Frost seduces Bond. Actually, she is distracting Bond while Jinx is captured. and Jinx infiltrates Graves' command center, but is captured by Graves and Zhao. Bond rescues her and discovers that Graves is in fact Colonel Moon, who has used the gene therapy technology to change his appearance, and amassed his fortune from sale of the conflict diamonds as a cover for his true plans. Bond sends Jinx to warn Frost. Bond confronts Graves, but Frost arrives to reveal herself as the traitor who betrayed Bond in North Korea. Frost and Moon studied together at Harvard and became good friends while fencing, forcing Bond to escape from Graves' facility. Bond returns in his Aston Martin V12 Vanquish to rescue Jinx, who has been recaptured by Frost in the palace. As Graves uses Icarus to melt the ice palace, Zhao pursues Bond into the palace using his Jaguar XKR. Bond kills Zhao by causing a giant ice chandelier to fall onto him, and revives Jinx after she has almost drowned by putting her in a hot spring that he had seen earlier inside Graves' palace. Bond and Jinx pursue Graves and Frost to the Korean peninsula. They are briefed that General Moon has been deposed in a coup by the hardliners. AOK troops are amassing north of the border with 1 million in reserve. Icarus will clear the minefield and enable the invasion of South Korea, and stow away on Graves' cargo plane before it takes off from the Pyongyang Air Base towards the DMZ. Graves reveals his identity to his father and the true purpose of the Icarus satellite: to cut a path through the Korean demilitarized zone with concentrated sunlight, allowing North Korean troops to invade South Korea, defeat the United Nations command forces of both U.S. and South Korean troops, and unite the peninsula under the flag of the DPRK, horrified that it would potentially trigger World War III with the United States. General Moon tries to stop the plan, but Graves murders him. Bond attempts to shoot Graves, but he is prevented by a soldier. In their struggle, a gunshot pierces the fuselage, causing the plane to descend rapidly. Bond and Graves engage in a fistfight, and Jinx attempts to regain control of the plane. Frost attacks Jinx, forcing her to defend herself in a sword duel. After the plane passes through the Icarus beam and is further damaged, Jinx kills Frost. Graves attempts to escape by parachute, but Bond opens the parachute, pulling Graves out of the plane and into one of its engines, killing him and disabling the Icarus beam. Bond and Jinx escape from the disintegrating plane in a helicopter from the cargo hold, carrying away Graves' stash of diamonds. So, there you have it, another day in all its glory and occasional absurdity. What do you think? Is this a Bond film you love, or does it miss the mark for you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this review. Also, be sure to subscribe for more Bond breakdowns, reviews, and all things 007. Until next time, this is Lois.